hope you are doing well. Today I am going to take up a poem with you from NCERT's English textbook for class 11. The name of the textbook is Hornbill and the name of the poem is Father to Son. This poem has been written by Elizabeth Jennings. Let's first know a little about the poet. Elizabeth Jennings was an English poet whose work had a confessional tone. Okay? She must have probably gone through the things that she has expressed in her poems. And she has used frank, plain-spoken language to convey intensely personal experiences. She wrote about 26 books of poetry and received acclaim from critics and readers alike in her lifetime. Though she did not describe her work as autobiographical, it was inspired by her emotional struggles. The poem, Father to Son, describes the relationship between a father and his son. As the title says, I think from the title we have been able to guess that this poem is about father and son. The father is lamenting the growing distances between the two and feels grief is turning into anger and bitterness in both of them. I am going to read the poem for you. As you all know, that poems are meant to be read aloud. Otherwise, we do not get the entire meaning of the poem. You must listen to the poem very carefully, and while you read the poem, make sure that you read it with proper stress, intonation, and pauses. Now, how do we come to know about pauses? You know it very well that punctuation marks tell us where to pause and which is a shorter pause and which is a longer pause. If there is a comma, that means it is a shorter pause, and if it is a full stop, then that means it's a longer pause and one idea has been completed. So shall I read the poem for you? Please open your books on page 85. Enjoy the poem. Father to Son. I do not understand this child, though we have lived together now in the same house for years. I know nothing of him, so try to build up a relationship from how he was when small. Yet, have I killed the seed I spent or sown it where the land is his and none of mine? We speak like strangers. There is no sign of understanding in the air. The child is built to my design, yet what he loves I cannot share. Silence surrounds us. I would have him prodigal returning to his father's house, the home he knew, rather than see him make and move his world. I would forgive him too, shaping from sorrow a new love. Father and son, we both must live on the same globe and the same land. He speaks, I cannot understand myself, why anger grows from grief. We each put out an empty hand, longing for something to forgive. Did you enjoy listening to the poem? You must have gathered the idea by now. This poem is an expression of grief, or you can say lament of the father, because the gap between his son and him has widened over the years. I think it is happening even today. The way things are changing, parents are left behind, children move on, there is nobody to look after the parents. Things are happening world over in this manner. Can you appreciate that? Yes, of course you can. they are visible around us. The father in the poem feels that he does not understand his son, although they have lived under the same roof for years. He regrets that the son seems to have become a stranger to him. The father wants to start afresh. He wants his son to start talking to him like they used to be when he was a young child. But as the son has grown, they have grown apart. He recalls moments when his son was a child. He feels that essentially a part of the relationship between the two has been destroyed by the father himself. Because when children are growing up, parents are very busy, there is lack of communication and things take a different turn altogether. Therefore, we say that communication is really, really important. The love the father showered upon his son was not reciprocated the way he wanted. They talk to each other like strangers, and there is no sign of any agreement between them. Difference of opinion. We can observe this around us. There is difference of opinion between parents and their children. It's bound to be there, but there should be healthy communication. You have to understand both the views and then come to some kind of an agreement. The father in the poem tried to fashion the child into a likeness of him. He wanted the child to be like him. But do you think it is possible? Not to a larger extent. Yes, you inherit the values from your parents. You inherit things that are good from them. That is what is required. But as per the environment, there is bound to be some change. But we must never forget the values that we can inherit from our parents. But they have grown apart. The father finds it impossible to share his son's likes and dislikes. There is a total lack of communication between them. You see, lack of communication can kill any relationship. Forget about father and son, even friendship. If there is no communication, it will not move ahead. Further, the father would want his son to return to him like the prodigal son. He would value them coming closer rather than the son moving away. The father feels he would forgive his son. Out of their grief, a new love would blossom. That's the hope. As father and son, they ought to share the same world, but unfortunately, they cannot understand each other. The father is grieved, and it is his sorrow that at times takes the form of anger. Both of them try to reach out to each other, but in vain. The differences are too wide. So, what have we understood from the poem? These are the things which we observe around us almost every day. We read about these things in the newspapers, but the poet has put them into the form of a poem. Now I want you to read the poem again with proper intonation, stress and pauses, right? And then you annotate each stanza. When you annotate each stanza, you will be able to understand the holistic meaning of the poem. And well, if you come across any difficult word, refer to the dictionary and find out the meaning as per the context of the poem. Shall we now discuss a few comprehension questions? Are you ready? My first question is, does the poem talk of an exclusively personal experience or is it fairly universal? Yes, students, what's your opinion? I am giving you 30 seconds to think or to note down the examples and the points, and then we will discuss. Shall we? Yes. Though the poem seems to talk exclusively of the personal experiences of a father, it is fairly universal in the problems that it addresses from the father's perspective. Yes, it is very true. Maybe Elizabeth Jennings has seen this or experienced this, and we also, see these things happening around us. So it has universal value. At the surface, the poem communicates the pain and helplessness of a father who wishes to mend the differences with his son in order to be with him. However, the theme of the poem is universal. Generation gap and lack of communication between parents and children are quite common these days. It speaks of the pain that parents go through due to being distanced from their children, both physically and emotionally. I think this is a worldwide phenomenon. Parents are feeling neglected. Their children leave them and go to different countries. They do come back, but that bond is not there. When they require their children to be with them, they are not there. I think things need to be changed. We should reflect on such a situation. There should be ways and means to address this. We cannot leave it just like that. Second question: how is the father's helplessness brought out in the poem? The helplessness of the father is highlighted through the depiction of the emotional struggle that he undergoes. Each stanza you will find that he is struggling emotionally. He is remembering the days when his son was a child. He is remembering the days when they were able to talk to each other. He is remembering when they were together, they were not like strangers. But now they cannot even communicate. He is aware of the problem and is willing to resolve, but is unable to do so. He regrets the lack of a strong emotional bond and proper communication with his son, who is also away from him. Is it clear to you? The third question: identify the phrases and lines that indicate distance between father and son. For this, you have to go back to your poem on page 85. I am giving you 30 seconds. Quickly go through your poem and underline the phrases that indicate distance between father and son. Have you done it? Shall I share mine with you? I have underlined, I do not understand this child. I know nothing of him. We speak like strangers. There is no sign of understanding in the air. You will find many more, like silence surrounds us. So you underline it and then you can write a paragraph around it. That these are some of the phrases that describes that there is lack of communication, lack of understanding between two people. Here in the case of the poem, it is father and son. It can happen between two friends also. My next question to you is, does the poem have a consistent rhyme scheme? Once again, I want you to go back to the poem. The poem does not follow a consistent rhyme scheme. Generally, you must have seen that many poets follow a rhyme scheme. Rhyme scheme, creates music, that rhythm. It is nice to read. When you try writing a poem, you can use it. Now that you are familiar what a rhyming scheme is, I have a writing task for you. Are you ready to note down? The task is, all relationships and friendships undergo change. Yes, of course. Some deepen and some fray or weaken. Some friendships become so great that, they become lifelong relationships, and some weaken. people go to different directions, they take different courses, they change cities. Sometimes the link is not there and it weakens. And you know, between parents and their children also we can see that. What you have to do is describe any one association of yours in light of this observation. Otherwise, you can take up the relationship that has weakened over time. Either of the two, either you write a poem or a diary entry or a letter to your friend. You write it, you can share it with your friends, with your teacher. You can also share it with us. We will get back to you via our email ID, and we would love to receive your writing. When you are writing, make sure that you follow the process approach to writing, because first draft can never be the final draft. You have to revise it, you have to edit it, you have to, give it a final shape by revising it. You can share the first draft with your friends, seek their opinion. No harm in doing that. Do you know, when T.S. Eliot wrote his Wasteland, he gave his poem to his friend Ezra Pound, and Ezra Pound heavily edited the Wasteland before it was published. So it is a done thing. You can also seek the help of your friends and then you revise it. Maybe you want to change the words here and there. Maybe you want to, rephrase your sentences. That will help you improve your writing. I hope you will do this. Read your poem, do your writing task. With this, we have come to the end of this session. Happy reading and happy writing.